Welcome to a new edition of the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino. On this episode, we talk with CEO and founder of Mama Systems, Laura Hernandez. Laura is the CEO and founder of Mama Systems, which is a coaching business that helps moms create peace in their homes through systems. Laura's story of fostering, adopting, and special needs has shaped not only her life, but has brought about this amazing company that has coached hundreds of moms to peace in their own homes. Laura and her husband Tony live in Dallas with their 10 children. Enjoy this story.
Thanks for taking a minute out today. I appreciate it.
No problem. I'm excited to chat with you.
Yeah, me too. You have a fascinating story. I've always been enamored and bespeckled by people that have more than like 3 children, and you have 10. So up front, I just completely acknowledge the strength that would have to take to have that many children to take care of. But it obviously is very rewarding. It's a reason why you do what you do. And before we get into that, I want to know, for you personally, as a family person and a business owner, how did you survive COVID, and how did that process change you?
As a family, as our family, it really didn't change that much. I kind of enjoyed it because things were canceled, and I always appreciate a lighter schedule. And we homeschool a lot of our kiddos, and so a lot of that didn't change. We just kept trucking along, And we're very blessed to live on 2 acres, and so I feel like we just got to roam around, and things just didn't seem to change that much for us, and that was a huge blessing.
Talk to me a little bit about exactly what you do, and I'm going to simplify this for you. If you were in front of a bunch of kids, 3rd graders, at a career day, and one of the kids looks up and says, "What do you do for a living?" how would you answer them?
I love that question. I would say, hey, you know how sometimes your mama gets maybe she gets a little frazzled and she feels like she might go crazy and she's kind of short and snippy with you? Well, I help mamas put systems in place so that way they can be more peaceful and they can be better mamas.
So the system that you have in place, explain that to me a little bit, and then I'm going to peel back the onion layers to find out how we get there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I help moms kind of figure out how, exactly what they're doing, because often we live such reactionary lives that we're not even aware of the things that we're doing all the time. And so I kind of help them figure all that out. And then from there, we figure out what out of that is giving you life and what is draining you. And the things that are draining you, we're trying to get those off your plate as quickly as possible. So we do that by automating, delegating, and eliminating altogether. So less stuff, less activities, less things. And then the things that we have to be doing, we're going to figure out a way to simplify that and make it as easy as possible so you're not spinning your wheels all the time. And then from there, we go into what do you really want in your life? What do you want to prioritize? And let's figure out a plan to make those things happen. So that's how we kind of work things out. And then the systems look like, hey, we're putting in a morning routine, we're putting an evening routine, we're having kids help with things around the house and really trying to build a team mentality. So different chore systems, and we have a ticket system that we use all the time that is just magical because kids are asking for jobs and, they're less entitled because they're having to earn things like Xbox and things like that.
So it seemed almost just naturally that COVID did that for a lot of people. As bad as it was and as much woe as it brought into the world, there was a part of that made everybody slow down, simplified everything. Was this kind of born out of, obviously, the fact that you have a large family, but was it also kind of born out of that COVID time as well?
Actually, I started a couple years before COVID, and it really happened for me when we went from 4 kids to 8 kids in a 6-month period. We had moved across the country to adopt 3, and we were living through a remodel and in a rent house, and then we had the 3's little sibling for a hot minute. And during that time, it was chaos, and we were just living in survival mode. And I remember backing up against the wall and thinking if I could just make it to bedtime, if I can keep everybody alive till bedtime, we'll be good. And so that clearly is no way to live. And I realized quickly that we needed to figure out something to get out of survival mode. And so I kind of did that same process of figuring out, like, hey, what are we doing here? What's going to work for us? What's not going to work for us? Because reading other books and other things, nobody had any systems for families that were 10 people, some adopted, with caseworkers in and out of our home, with special needs kiddos, with therapies all the time, homeschooling, some in public school. Like, there was nothing that fit us. And so I realized in that process a couple years later, after we had peace in our home, oh my goodness, this is duplicable, this way that I walk through things, because no family is exactly the same. Every family is unique, with different personalities from the moms and the kids and the makeup and activities and all of that. So I coached several of my friends through it and was like, I really enjoy this. It brought me life. It gave them so much life. And so Mama Systems was born out of that.
So let's go back into your childhood. When you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to be a mom. that simple. I wanted to have 100 kids, and I realized that that's a little extreme now. I do, but from the littlest of age, I wanted so many kids, and I wanted to adopt, and so this is kind of my dream. I'm getting to live it.
That's wonderful. So talk to me a little bit about, I know you have some children you adopted. Kind of how did all of this get to, are you at 10 right now?
We're at 10 right now. Yeah, so we had 3 biological children, and my husband Tony said, you know what, we need to figure out what we're going to do, because if we're going to adopt, we need to do that now before we have any more children, because I don't know if I'm going to be able to handle any more than 4, which is kind of humorous now. But from there, we went to an adoption class at our church, and we learned all about international adoption and infant adoption and foster care and all the things. And once we learned about foster care, we both looked at each other and we said, oh crap. It was like these horrible stories that these people were sharing up front. And we both looked at each other and said, this is what we're supposed to be doing. And so we both just knew at that moment that that's where we were supposed to head. And so we had Andrew in our home. Today's his 12-year-old birthday, so it was exactly 12 years ago. He came to our home straight from the hospital, and we had him from 0 to 8 months. And in that time, of course, we absolutely fell in love with him, felt like he was our son, adored him. At 8 months, he went back to his biological mom, and she subsequently had 2 more kids. We subsequently had 2 more kids and a trip to Seattle. We lived in Seattle for a hot minute. And then they came back into care, and they were being placed up for, they were going to be terminating rights. And so we had to move back to Texas to be able to adopt them. And so we did that. And it was right after we had our 5th biological that they joined our family a few months later.
So, one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you and what I'm interested in this community is my son, Miles, is 17, and he's on the autism spectrum. He actually has a long arm, an extra long piece of genetic material in his 15th chromosome. He's had developmental delays his whole life, and I've been very involved in the special needs community. I'm curious, having that large of a family, how good are the other kids with being aware, and how much have the children with special needs grown because of that large family environment?
Yeah, such an interesting question. So our 3 that we adopted all have fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, and that can look differently. It's a spectrum disorder just like autism is, and so that can look differently across the board, but our 3 have intellectual and developmental delays as well. And we also have 2 of our biological children also have autism. And so we're just kind of not your typical, we're not a neurotypical family at all. Even our quote-unquote typical ones all have ADD. So we can kind of be a hot mess. There's lots of grace for everybody involved, which is kind of a beautiful thing. And it's been wonderful to see my older kids kind of have compassion on our littler ones and our ones with special needs, and just to really see that grow in them and see their patience grow and their kindness grow towards people that are different and that have different abilities has been really, really beautiful. And it's something that I was not expecting or prepared for, but it's been a beautiful side effect of it.
So every day you wake up, your job is as a mom to keep everything together. What really drives you, and what do you consider a successful day when you're done at the end of the day?
Ooh, yeah, I mean, getting the things done that need to be done for sure, but the joy of it is kind of the big piece of like a successful day. Because if I'm at the end of the day completely exhausted from doing all my to-do list, it's not a fulfilling day, I guess. So I think that's the difference. It's like successful, I feel like I've checked things off my to-do list, and fulfilling is, okay, I've gotten to spend time with my kids. We've really been able to pour into each other and love on our kiddos together, and so playing games and dancing in the kitchen and having good conversations, I feel like is a fulfilling day for me.
So when you look back on your life right now, and let's say you have a dream tonight, you run into your younger version of yourself before you started to have children, and you could give your young version a piece of advice based on what you've learned, the wisdom that you've gained over the years. What would you tell your younger version?
I think I would say it's okay to ask for help, and it's a really good thing to ask for help. And just to put that guard down, I think it took me so long to get to a place where I was willing. I guess it was desperation, where I was willing to let people in and help me. I think I would have done that a lot sooner, because there's so much joy in that, and bringing people in, and it creates this beautiful intimacy and friendship with people that you just have no idea what those relationships can look like once you're vulnerable in that space of, hey, I can't do this, I need your help.
Absolutely. So who have been role models for you or a hero for you in your life?
Well, that's a loaded question, isn't it?
It could be.
Why do I not? I don't think about that often. I mean, my goodness, I think my friends. It's that I realize that no one knows my friends, but I am honored to be friends with the most brave and strong women who have gone through so much and continue to fight and continue to advocate for their children and for themselves. And I want to be like them when I grow up because of their bravery.
So I'm going to up the ante a little bit, and I'm going to ask you, if you could meet one person alive on the planet right now, who would it be? Who would you love to talk to?
Brene Brown.
I'm so glad I heard a voice in the background. I was thinking, how is there not voices or some kind of level of that in the background? So I'm glad that during the interview we got that. Great. So let me ask you this. What are you the proudest of? When you lean back at the end of the proverbial day, what are you the proudest of that you've done in your life?
I think just the way I've been able to advocate for my kids. It's hard. I mean, it's hard showing up, and often, without getting into an 8-hour story, I feel like it's hard to show up with people have judgments about our family, often have judgments about our family, often have judgments about our kids, and showing up and having to defend that, which no mother should ever have to do, right? But I feel like we're constantly kind of in that, and I'm sure that you understand that, constantly in that of just having to show up and improve our worthiness to other people, and not because we need their approval, but just because we need their help. We need them to not call CPS on us because our daughter ate off the floor, and though she is 9 years old, she's more functioning like a 4-year-old, and people don't always understand those things and make rash judgments because of it.
I fully understand that. I've lost a lot in my life because of being in, a position where people will put those labels and judgments on you, and they have no idea. And of course, you don't know until you live it. But I think the thing is that you have to just continue to carry on, and they're going to do what they're going to do, and you're going to do what you're going to do. There's really nothing more to prove. If you go to bed at the end of the night knowing that you did the best that you can do, then you're just going to have to let bygones be bygones. That's kind of the way I see it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let me ask you this. What is one of the nicest things that, say a client or someone that uses your system has ever said to you about it?
Yeah. When mamas talk about how they have time for their people and how their brains, I'm not sure how many women are out there right now, but I know that our brains work differently than men's, and we kind of have all of the things in one drawer, and it's a whole lot. And so it's just constantly swirling around in our heads, all the things we have to do. But when our brains can kind of calm down and have a plan for those things, I think that things run so much smoother. And so hearing moms just kind of echo that over and over again of like, oh my goodness, I'm able to show up. I feel like I know what I'm doing in my home. I don't feel so chaotic all the time. I'm not yelling at my kids anymore, things like that. It's just so rewarding to know that like true change is happening in their homes because of things that I've helped them with.
You know, you have a lot going on in your life. So I'm going to ask you, you know, everyone has a perception of you. All of your, you know, your family, you know, your friends, you know, all of your children, you know, clients, but ultimately you're in control. You live your life. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Ooh. I'm brave. I'm strong. I'm an advocate. I'm fierce. I'm loyal. I realize that those were just descriptor words, but those are the things that come to mind.
And that's totally fine. And that's a part of this. Sometimes it can tendency of getting overthought. So no, the simplicity is probably the most profound. So if anybody wants to know more about you, Mama Systems, anything related to your world, where's the best place for them to go?
Yeah, mamasystems.net. And then on Instagram and Facebook, Mama Systems.
Wonderful. Laura, hey, thank you very much for taking some time out today. Good luck with everything. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning in to another famous interview with Joe Dimino, where we cover the world of art, literature, business, spirituality, and music around the globe. If you want to hear more interviews, visit the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino channel on YouTube. Thanks again for listening, and until next time.